from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Merry Christmas.
On AM 560.
Ho, ho, ho.
The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This story comes to us from our friend Jason Rance in the Pacific Northwest. 10th grade ethnic studies world history teacher at Chief Sealth International High School in Seattle gave students a quiz entitled Understanding Gender versus Sex. There were two questions that were of particular importance, apparently, because the student got them wrong, in quotation marks, and failed the quiz. A true or false statement, all men have penises. The 10th grade student in the Seattle High School labeled the statement true since, well, it is. Yeah, that's why. Mm-hmm. Incorrect.
Oh, really?
Women can have a penis.
We can? Oh. I'm going to go get one. I'll be right back.
The other question, true or false again, only women can get pregnant. Don't fall for the trap. Trick question. But he did. He fell for the trap. He said true. And that, of course, is false. Men can, of course, get pregnant. We know this now. He got those two questions wrong. He failed the quiz, and Mom notified our friend in sound, Jason Rance, about this. She also said that various teachers at the school have called her son effed and racist, a product of the patriarchy that teaches young boys not to care about anything. He shouldn't use the term straight to identify as because it's offensive. That's part of the inclusive atmosphere the left is creating at this high school in Seattle, like they are in our culture writ large. It's so inclusive. Mom's still proud of her son for marking the correct answers, even though the high school she's sending her kid to is an incubator of totalitarianism. So that's what's happening, and that's why, in part, talked about COVID lockdowns, but the plummeting of test scores, and there's more out today the other day with the PISA scores internationally. The plummeting of test scores in the West is something to behold. And as usual, there's a lot of variables. But turning schools into these sorts of indoctrination camps, that's definitely part of the conversation. For more, we're pleased to be joined by James Bovard. He's editor for The American Conservative, author of the just-released book, Last Rites, The Death of American Liberty. Doesn't sound so optimistic. James, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It doesn't sound optimistic, but the book has a lot of comic relief.
Okay. Okay, good. It's tough. It's tough to parody reality these days. So you must have really gone next level there. But sort of we talk about the speech on college campus and intemperate remarks that are made by protesters and so forth. But what about when it becomes an actual part of the curriculum, like this Seattle anecdote?
Well, it's so sad that people are taking their values from government officials and politicians, because that's halfway to being a serf. Because back in the old days, the schools were supposed to teach kids how to read, write, maybe arithmetic, and nowadays instead they're imposing values. It's almost like that the schools are on a missionary purpose, and they're trying to save the barbarians from their own family's values.
Well, and here's the thing about this, just to stay on this specific example in the larger conversation. NPR Mayor's poll finds now 40% of Americans believe in transgenderism, believe that someone born a man can be a woman and vice versa. Almost 40%. So, here we go. It started out, 5-10 years ago, it would be in the single digits. It wasn't even discussed. Now, because of the relentlessness of the left and their control of media and so many of our mediating institutions, you have it's a 60-40 proposition. And there's just not the willingness by enough, it would seem to me, thus the march, to stand up and say no. And by the way, this is being driven by a political party, of course. The only cohort where a majority believe in that the fiction that a man can identify as a woman and be a woman, it should be treated exactly like an actual woman. Democrats 2-1, 64-33. So it's the ideology of a political party, but it happens to be one of the two major political parties, and it is being driven and it is persuading.
Yeah, and it's being driven a lot by the schools. I've got some discussion with the transgender stuff in last rights. If you look at San Francisco School District, that school district encourages teachers to refer to children's parents as caregiver 1 and caregiver 2 instead of mother and father.
Mm-hmm.
And for the school district in Michigan, instead of referring to boys and girls, they're supposed to refer to earthlings, or people with vulvas, or people with penises, and it's like, this is just bizarre. It's funny, except that, as you said, I mean, there are stupid questions on tests, and all of a sudden you got penalties. You have teachers throwing penalty flags for the damnedest nonsense, and it's like, I don't know when basic biology got canceled. What is this, the Soviet Union?
Right. Well, when is enough going to be enough, though? I mean, I would never parents have to say, I'm your mom. I'm not a birthing person.
Yes. Well, I think that there are a lot of parents who have called BS on this. I don't think that it's going to be that popular of an issue for the Democrats in the future, but I've been wrong before. And personally, I'm amazed at how far this has gone, because it's so sad to encourage all these children starting in kindergarten to anguish about their own gender, because this is not something people should waste time thinking about. You've got a tiny percentage of folks that might actually have spontaneous thoughts on this, but it's almost like the kids are being indoctrinated to agonize about who they are.
It's not almost, and then they're being rewarded, so that just encourages more. I mean, there's a story out about a University of Washington volleyball player, one of the 12 scholarships for the University of Washington, it's Division I, Pac-10 school. One of the 12 scholarships for the women's volleyball teams is going to a dude who's identifying as a woman. So the idea that a lot of people thought, well, once it gets to men playing women's sports, that's when people are really going to draw the line. No, they're still on the march. They're still closing the gap.
They are, but it's good that there is a lot more ridicule and a lot more of a backlash. I think it certainly helped that Elon Musk bought Twitter, because that's a place where people can offer blunt comments on this. It's fascinating to me to see that the schools have absolved themselves from teaching basic literacy simply because they're busy doing this indoctrination stuff, which is wrecking so many lives and undermining a lot of families.
One other matter of being a free people or not. We mentioned earlier in the program, we've been mentioning for some time now, Section 702 of the FISA Act that was just voted up by the House and reauthorized for another 4 months, warrantless searches by the FBI, despite the documented abuses that are in the hundreds of thousands. And the surveillance state intersecting with the censorship industrial complex that journalists like Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger have been reporting on since the Twitter files revelations, and the concern you have for those two enterprises independently, and certainly the collaboration between them.
Yeah, did a couple pieces this week on the 702 stuff. Had a piece yesterday in the New York Post and a piece a couple days early in the American Conservative on that. It's amazing how so few members of Congress give a damn about the Bill of Rights. And there was a tweet I sent out 11 years ago saying basically a person would have to be a damn fool to trust Congress to protect their rights and liberties. And that was even before Edward Snowden. And all the evidence has come out since then. And yet you have all these members of Congress who simply don't care or are trying to make the law actually a whole lot worse. There was a bill from the House Intelligence Committee that would have would have expanded the FISA 702 coverage to include the Wi-Fi's at hotels. I mean, I mean, folks thought that the Wi-Fi was bad at Comfort Inn already. It could get a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, right. G-Man could be on the other side, right?
Oh, my goodness.
James Bovard, contributing editor for the American Conservative, author of the just-released book, Last Rites, The Death of American Liberty. Pick it up. James, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency.